Every night while you sleep, your kidneys are doing something remarkable. They are filtering roughly 150 liters of blood, pulling out waste, balancing your electrolytes, and protecting every organ in your body from the slow poison of toxins that would otherwise build up by morning. And most people over 60 are doing absolutely nothing to support that process. In fact, most people are accidentally working against it. I am a physician with more than 15 years of working with patients, and I want to tell you something that almost never comes up in a 10 or 12-minute office visit. There is a fruit, something ordinary, something you can find in any grocery store for less than $2, that when eaten at the right time of night can meaningfully support kidney filtration, reduce the strain on your renal tissue overnight, and over time lower some of the most dangerous markers of kidney stress. Most of my patients had never heard this. Not because it is a secret, but because the system does not have time to explain it. Tonight, I am going to walk you through the single best fruit to eat before bed for your kidneys, and I will not just tell you what it is. I will tell you why, how it works inside the tissue, what the research has found, and exactly how to use it so that you are not just hearing a recommendation, but understanding it well enough to make it a habit. Stay with me until the end, because the most important part is not the fruit itself. It is the mechanism, the precise window of time, and the one common mistake that cancels out every benefit. Before we go any further, tell me in the comments how old you are and whether you have ever been told your kidney numbers are off. I read those comments, and the age and health picture of this audience shapes exactly what I cover next. Now, let me give you the foundation, because without it, the recommendation is just a tip, and tips do not stick. Your kidneys sit just below your rib cage, one on each side of your spine, each about the size of your fist. Inside each kidney are roughly 1 million tiny filtering units called nephron. Think of a nephron like a very fine mesh coffee filter. Blood flows in under pressure, waste and excess fluid pass through the mesh and become urine, and clean blood flows back out. That process happens continuously, every minute of your life, including every minute you sleep. Here is what changes at night. When you lie down and your body enters the deeper phases of sleep, blood pressure drops and your kidneys shift from high volume daytime filtration into what I call the night shift. During the night shift, the kidneys do something the daytime rush does not allow enough time for. They concentrate waste, balance acid load, and regulate the minerals that your heart and muscles will need in the morning. They are running a precision operation in the dark, with less blood volume and less pressure to work with. The problem for many adults over 60 is that by the time they go to bed, there is an accumulated acid and waste burden from the day that makes the kidneys work harder than they should during those nighttime hours. And if someone already has early stage kidney stress or elevated creatinine or borderline blood pressure, that nighttime burden is not trivial. It is one of the quiet reasons why kidney function can decline slowly year after year without a person feeling much of anything until the numbers on a lab result tell a different story. This is where fruit comes in, specifically the right fruit at the right time. The fruit I am talking about is watermelon. And before you say you already knew that, stay with me, because what I am about to tell you goes well beyond hydration. Watermelon is roughly 92% water by weight. You already know it is hydrating, but that is the least interesting thing about it for your kidneys. What most people do not know, and what almost no doctor has time to explain, is that watermelon contains a compound called citrulline. Say it out loud, citrulline. It is an amino acid, which means it is a building block of protein, but it behaves differently from the amino acids you think of when you think of muscle or meat. Citrulline is found in very few foods in meaningful amounts. Watermelon is the richest natural source by a significant margin. Here is what citrulline does and why it matters at night. Your body converts citrulline into another amino acid called arginine. Arginine is then used to produce nitric oxide, which is a molecule that signals the smooth muscle inside your blood vessel walls to relax. When blood vessel walls relax, the vessels open slightly wider, blood flows more easily, pressure drops just enough. And critically for your kidneys, the blood vessels that feed the renal arteries, the ones that deliver blood to those 1 million nephron filters, experience a gentler, more efficient flow. Think of it this way. Imagine you are trying to push water through a garden hose that is slightly kinked. The pressure builds up, the flow is uneven, and the hose itself takes more strain. Now unsink that hose just slightly. The same amount of water moves through with far less effort, far less pressure at the joints. That is roughly what citrulline-derived nitric oxide does to the blood vessels feeding your kidneys overnight. For a healthy person under 50, this is a nice benefit. For someone over 60 with any history of high blood pressure, early kidney stress, or diabetes-related renal strain, this is a meaningful one. Now, let me tell you about the second reason watermelon belongs in this conversation, and this one surprised me the first time I looked at the research carefully. Watermelon contains lycopene. You may have heard of lycopene in the context of tomatoes. Watermelon actually contains more lycopene per serving than raw tomatoes do. Lycopene is a carotenoid, which means it is a fat-soluble antioxidant. Inside the kidney, one of the processes that accelerates tissue damage over time is oxidative stress, which is essentially the accumulation of unstable molecules called free radicals that damage the membranes of your nephron cells. Lycopene has been studied for its ability to neutralize these free radicals, specifically in renal tissue. Research published in the journal Renal Failure looked at the relationship between lycopene and kidney tissue health and found a meaningful association between higher lycopene intake and lower markers of oxidative damage in the kidney. I will not give you a number, I cannot verify precisely, but the direction of that finding is consistent across several independent analyses. So at night, when your kidneys are doing their concentrated precision work, having lycopene available in your system is like having a repair crew on standby, catching the cellular damage before it accumulates. The third reason, and the one that matters enormously for anyone who has been told to watch their potassium levels, is this. Watermelon is a relatively low potassium fruit compared to the options many seniors reach for before bed. Bananas, oranges, avocados, these are high potassium foods. For most healthy people, that is fine. But for anyone with chronic kidney disease, even at an early stage, the kidneys are losing their ability to excrete potassium efficiently. When potassium builds up in the blood, it affects heart rhythm in ways that can become serious very quickly. A dry piece of data cannot convey that well, so let me put it plainly. High potassium in someone with compromised kidneys is not a nuisance. It is a cardiac risk. Watermelon eaten in appropriate portions gives you the hydration, the citrulline, and the lycopene without flooding a struggling kidney with more potassium than it can handle overnight. That combination is why I keep coming back to it as the single best choice for nighttime kidney support. Now I want to pause here for a moment, because I realize I have been giving you a great deal of information very quickly, and some of it is probably connecting dots that have been unconnected for years. If you have been following along and you want to go deeper, including the full breakdown of which foods protect each part of the kidney, how to read your own creatinine and GFR numbers, and the exact questions to bring to your next nephrology or primary care visit, I put everything into one place. It is called the Complete Senior Health Vault, and it is 3 plain English guides covering the medications to question, the food as medicine approach, and the full manual for how your body changes after 70. The link is in the description of this video, and you can also scan the code on your screen right now to access it. It is everything I wish I had time to cover in a 12-minute office visit, organized so you can apply it to your own health, your own medications, your own numbers. Not a substitute for your doctor, but the education that makes that conversation far more productive. And speaking of what comes next, I want to get to the most common mistake I see people make with this exact recommendation, because it cancels out the benefit entirely. That is coming in just a moment. Let me also tell you about something that the research has been increasingly clear on, and that most people over 60 never hear. The timing of when you eat this fruit matters as much as the fruit itself. Here is why. Eating anything within about 30 to 45 minutes of lying down while still fully upright creates a digestive demand. Blood flow is redirected toward the gut to handle digestion. At the same time, if you eat something with a higher sugar content immediately before lying flat, your insulin response may create a mild overnight glucose fluctuation. And in someone with any degree of insulin resistance, that fluctuation creates its own metabolic burden. The kidney is not isolated from this. Glucose spikes, even modest ones overnight, have been associated with increased glomerular pressure, which is the pressure inside those tiny nephron filters I described. Over years, repeated glomerular pressure elevation is one of the mechanisms through which diabetic kidney disease develops. So the window matters. The sweet spot I recommend to my patients is eating a portion of watermelon approximately 1.5 to 2 hours before bed. Not right before you brush your teeth. Not at dinner and hoping it counts. 1.5 to 2 hours before you intend to be asleep. This gives your digestive system time to process, your blood sugar time to return to baseline, and the citrulline and lycopene time to begin their work in circulation before your kidneys enter that nighttime precision mode. The portion also matters. I'm not talking about sitting down to half a watermelon. A serving of roughly 1.5 to 2 cups of cubed watermelon, which is about 300 grams or just over 10 ounces, is the amount associated in nutritional literature with meaningful citrulline delivery. Below 1 cup, the citrulline content may be too low to generate a significant nitric oxide effect. Above 3 cups and 1 sitting before bed, you are adding a sugar and fluid load that may be counterproductive, particularly for anyone managing nighttime urination or early kidney disease. Now, the mistake I promised you, the most common one, and I hear this regularly, is that people add watermelon to an evening snack that already includes high sodium foods. A small bowl of crackers, some chips, a little cheese. Sodium in the evening raises the osmotic burden on the kidney overnight. It forces the kidneys to work harder to maintain proper fluid balance. And it partially offsets the vasodilating effect of the citrulline because excess sodium counteracts the blood pressure lowering signal that nitric oxide generates. You are essentially pressing the gas and the brake at the same time. Eat the watermelon alone or pair it with something neutral. A few walnuts is fine, a small amount of plain yogurt is fine, a handful of crackers with salt is not the move. Let me also address the patients who have been told by their nephrologist or their primary care physician to restrict fluid intake at night. If you have been given that instruction, it matters more than anything I am telling you tonight. Never contradict a direct instruction from your treating physician based on general nutritional advice, including mine. What I am describing is appropriate for the broad population of adults over 60 who are trying to support kidney health proactively, not for those managing late-stage kidney disease or a fluid restriction order. If you are unsure which category you are in, bring this to your next visit and ask your doctor directly. I want to tell you about a patient I will call Margaret. She was 68 years old, living in Scottsdale, Arizona, and she came to see me after her annual labs had shown a small but consistent decline in her estimated glomerular filtration rate over 3 consecutive years. Her GFR was not in a danger zone. She was not in kidney failure. But the trend line was moving in the wrong direction, and she knew it because she had watched her older sister lose kidney function slowly over the same decade before needing dialysis at 72. That was her fear. Not a sudden crisis. A slow slide toward the same outcome. Margaret was doing a lot of things right. She was walking 30 minutes most mornings, she had mostly cut out processed food, but her evenings were the problem. She was eating dinner late, often with a glass of wine, sometimes with salty crackers and cheese afterward, and she was going to bed within an hour of her last bite. She was not sleeping well, waking 2 or 3 times a night. Her morning blood pressure readings were consistently on the high side. We did not start with a prescription. We changed the evening entirely. We moved her dinner earlier. We replaced her late night snack with 2 cups of cubed watermelon eaten about 90 minutes before bed. We took the salt out of the evening entirely. We added a short 10-minute walk after dinner, which independently helps with overnight blood pressure regulation. Within 3 months, her morning blood pressure readings had come down by an average of 9 points systolic. Her overnight wake-ups reduced from 2 or 3 to 1 or sometimes none. At her next annual lab draw, her GFR had stabilized. It had not improved dramatically in a single year because kidneys do not work on dramatic timelines. But the trend had stopped. The slide had leveled off. For Margaret, who had watched her sister's trajectory, a flat line on that chart felt like a victory. She told me at that visit, I did not think fruit was going to be part of this conversation, and I told her what I want to tell you now. The most powerful tools in medicine are often the ones that look too ordinary to take seriously. Let me give you a plan for tonight, because I do not want this to be information you heard once and forgot. First, if you do not already have watermelon in the house, put it on your grocery list for this week. A small seedless watermelon costs less than $3 in most stores. Pre-cut cubes in a container are Second, pick a consistent bedtime and count back 90 minutes to 2 hours. That is your watermelon window. Set a reminder on your phone if it helps. Habit formation works through consistency, not perfection. Third, clear your evening snack of sodium. If you are used to something salty after dinner, replace it with the watermelon serving. Your kidneys will feel the difference before your brain registers the habit change. Fourth, eat the watermelon sitting up. Not in bed, not lying on the couch, sit at a table or upright in a chair. Give your digestive system the geometry it needs. Fifth, if you have lab work coming up in the next 3 to 6 months, note today's date and the change you are making. Ask your doctor to include a basic metabolic panel, which will show your creatinine and your electrolytes. You want to see if the trend moves. One data point does not tell you much. A direction over time tells you everything. One more thing before I let you go. If you are currently on a medication called a diuretic, a water pill, things like furosemide or hydrochlorothiazide, adding a high water content fruit before bed is worth flagging with your doctor. The interaction is usually benign, and in some cases the added hydration is helpful, but your physician should know what you are doing, especially if you are managing electrolytes carefully. And as always, never stop a medication on your own. Bring your questions to your doctor. The kidneys are extraordinary organs. They ask for almost nothing, and they give back everything. After 15 years of sitting across from patients who are dealing with the consequences of years of overlooked kidney stress, I have a deep respect for how much these organs quietly absorb and how much better they perform when we give them even modest support. A piece of fruit eaten at the right time and the right amount with the right awareness of what surrounds it. That is not a small thing. That is consistent nightly support for one of the most essential systems in your body. Tell me in the comments whether you are going to try this tonight. I want to know. And if you have someone in your family who has been told their kidney numbers are heading the wrong way, send them this. Not as alarm, but as a place to start. Before you go, there is one more place your body sends its early kidney warnings long before a lab test catches them, and it shows up somewhere you probably check every single day without knowing what you are looking at. That is the next video, and I will see you there. Stay sharp.